Look all the way up on top of this Carifa palm off to the left. See, there's a very large plant there. When that plant bloomed, it was very, very colorful. It's now lost its coloring, and it's now in the process of producing its seed. Turning to the right, going to be entering our bamboo exhibit in a little while. Dr. Fairchild did bring bamboo back to the United States, believing it would be a very useful commercial product, which it is. Before I talk about it, though, look off to your left. You're going to see an African sausage tree. The large animals there like to come and eat that. Get a quick glimpse of an iguana running away from us off to the left right now, a fairly large guy. Talk about bamboo. Grows in a cluster variety here at the garden. Very useful in housing, bamboo furniture, bamboo flooring, and textiles. Many fabrics are presently woven out of bamboo, or at least the fibers for the fabrics are woven out of bamboo. Two exhibits coming up, one on the left, one on the right, going on for a while. Off to the left, actually off to the right, if you look in the water, you'll see some plants growing there. They're called mangrove trees. They don't look like trees, but they are classified as trees. They grow in the water. In a second, we'll get a much closer view of them, and I'll talk a little more about them. And then off to the left is a stand of plants and trees that were brought here from the Bahama Islands in the 1970s, and yet another conservation effort. Off to the right, you're now going to get a better view of mangroves. Mangroves grow in water. They can grow in salt water or brackish water like we have here. Before World War II, they permeated the Florida coastline up to the Carolinas, all the way across the Gulf of Mexico to Texas. Because of development of our coastline after World War II, many mangrove areas were destroyed. They're now regulated by the Army Corps of Engineers. They basically serve two useful purposes. First, because they exist in the water. If a storm approaches, they would help break up the wave action of the storm. And secondly, leaf litter falling from these trees provides rich nutrients for sea life. The Bahama exhibit continues off to your left. And off to the right, now the cab is passing a juniper bush. Native to the Bahamas and Central America, it produces a small blue seed that when ground up is useful in cooking. Off to the right, a mesquite tree right now. There's another iguana right underneath it right now. Mesquite trees are native to coastal Venezuela and Mexico. Off to the left is Center Lake, the largest of our man-made lakes. Now off to the right in the water is where we saw the crocodile or alligator. He was swimming, and I didn't think we would be seeing him again. So, but he's probably somewhere in that lake.
Ой, красота. Живой же аллигатор.
Coming up now on our right, and then on both sides of the tram path, it's called the palm savanna. Palms that like to grow near the water, and they represent some of our collection of palms that we have here in the garden. I'm only going to mention two names. Off to the right, coming up, is a palm with a very rough-looking lower half of its trunk and very smooth upper half, called the Carnula wax palm. Talk a little more about it a little later. But you'll notice, and you would have noticed, that all of the palms so far that we've seen have only one trunk. Well, there's always an exception to many things, and the exception to the one trunk rule is coming up on our right. Very tall Hyphene palm. Cab is coming up to it right now. You'll notice multiple trunks coming out of the ground and then further breaking into more trunks in the air. It's called the Hyphene palm, native to northern Africa. These are very ancient palms, and we know that because depictions of it have been found in tombs of the pharaohs. Now, if you ever wondered how South Florida looked before we all came here and started building condominiums and shopping centers, going back over 100 years, 200 years ago, we believe it consisted mostly of two habitats, one of which we're passing through right now, which is called pine rockland. We believe there was over 160,000 acres of pine rockland existing in that area. Presently, there's only about 2,000 acres remaining, located mostly in public areas, parks, and school sites. Getting back to the Carnauba wax palm, there's a few of them off to your right now. Very useful commercial palm. It produces a wax that's useful in polishing automobiles, putting the shine on M&M candies and cucumbers. When the lowlands were being developed, Dr. Fairchild wanted one area preserved in its natural state, and that's what we're passing right now on your right. Very rough area, many limbs very close to the ground, many roots growing out of the ground as well. A lot of water up and down, very rough area to navigate your way through. And this area continues until I will start making a turn to the left in a little while. The last couple of trees that like to grow outward but not upward, off on your left. Live oak trees, spotted fig trees. Notice how the very thick branches are growing parallel to the ground in many cases. And then off to the right, coming up to a ficus or a banyan tree. Notice the aerial roots which are dropping down from the horizontal branches. When they hit the ground, they burrow themselves into the ground, causing the tree to expand itself outward. We know of one ficus tree in the Fort Myers, Florida area on the Edison estate that covers 1 acre of ground. And you'll know, I'm sure you know that one of the more popular palms are coconut palms. And we have a couple of them off to your right, growing right near the water. If you look up all the way in the palm, you're going to see that there are some coconuts growing there. And now we're going to be passing on our right pandanus. If you look up in the branches of the pandanus, you might see there's some plants growing there, greenish color, sometimes oranges. When they're orange at full maturity, they fall to the ground, break into pieces, and the iguanas living in the park like to come and eat those pieces. Pandanus trees are native to the islands of the South Pacific. They like to grow near the water, but not in the water. There's another large iguana that we're passing right now. Got a little orangish color on him. Now the second habitat that covered a large part of this area will be coming up on the right after we pass this green hut, starting in plot number 65 with the bald cypress tree there, and continuing on once I make a turn to the right. I'll tell you a little bit about the exploration the garden's involved in. After Dr. Fairchild's time, our scientists and other workers have continued his tradition of going to various parts of the tropics, exploring for different types of plants. But now they're doing something a little bit different. You might know that on the space station circling the Earth right now, the astronauts there are doing different research projects. One of which is to try to grow plants on the space station. Why would they be doing that? Well, if there's ever going to be a mission to Mars, it would take 7 to 8 months to get there, 7 to 8 months to get back. And they would have to be able to store enough vitamin-enriched food for them to really be able to survive. Don't believe that they could store enough on the space ship So they would have to be able to grow and nurture plants that would be vitamin rich, especially with vitamin K. The overlook is on your left right now. So recently our scientists here in the garden have partnered with the scientists of NASA to work on developing plants
Кто
that
видит
would be
мальчика
vitamin K
тритончика, тот
enriched.
молодец.
And what the purple lights over in the Science Village
Травки,
represent
может, и крокодильчик.
is where they have some exhibits there
Баранчики тут бегают.
that are trying to grow grow plants that are enriched with vitamin K. So I'd like to thank you all for coming along. If you're already not a member of the garden and wish to maybe think about doing so, any money you paid today towards your admission would be applied to the cost of a membership.